All right, we're back on Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, building damage experts, every Saturday, iHeartRadio, right here, 941 FM or 93.1 FM or 540 AM if you're driving through locally. WFLA on iHeartRadio. Thanks again for joining the show. If you haven't heard our show already, if you're just joining us new, jump on over to our Facebook page, like us, follow us, subscribe. We also push this out via podcast. So if you want to check out Hans Kennon's suit, he's with Morgan & Morgan on every episode. You can chime in over here. I love the chime. And check it out. Every week now we're going to put him on the spot for a new Dapper suit of the day.
I'm up for the challenge.
Dapper That's Tuesday?
Right. Up for the challenge.
Flavor of the week, man. And then you'll see me. I'll be wearing the exact same suit, but 1 week behind, because this way I'll know what to buy.
I think you should buy a spirit finger.
I totally need a spirit finger.
Oh my goodness. All right. So before the break, we're talking about some of these policy exclusions. If you're in the market for property insurance, I'm not trying to sell you on that. That sounded like a sell. If you're in the market for it, although we have been pushing people over to Farmers Insurance because it seems to be you get a better adjustment on a non-Florida based company, especially with how emboldened these Florida carriers are nowadays. But talking about the exclusions that you have to look out for to make sure you're covered. Think about the areas in which you live. I mean, what they're prone for. You may live in a flood zone area. Okay. Citizens now, there's a new law change that said that citizens has to, by I think in the next 5 years or 7 years, something like that, everyone that has a citizens policy for wind coverage must also have a flood policy, whether you need it or not. That's just the state of Florida pushing it to where they're going to overprice the market by making people get flood coverage in an area that never floods just to have a wind policy. So sooner or later, Citizens is going to be the most expensive insurance carrier in the state, and I think that's what the state wants to do to drop down the amount of policies they had. Last time I checked, I think it was about 1.4 million policies that Citizens has, owned by the state of Florida. Not the highest amount of policies they've ever had. Back in 2007 and 8, I believe during Chris time, the state of Florida had that many policies. And just like with anything, new insurance companies pop up. They sell these takeout policies to these up-and-coming insurance companies. For instance, 2014, Heritage made its debut by purchasing 400,000 policies from Citizens in one swoop. And so to start their way, or up to, I think they're now in 22 states, and one of the top insurance providers in the state of Florida, behind Universal Insurance, which is another publicly traded entity who sold $1 billion last year in new premiums just in property alone. So for anybody to say there was an insurance crisis last year, I don't know, man. I don't see it. I haven't heard about it. Well, you know what it's not, though? It's not high volume of claims. It's not attorneys like Morgan & Morgan suing your insurance companies, unscrupulous contractors, roofers knocking on your door, making you file claims that you shouldn't have never filed. As a matter of fact, there's been articles out on that topic now that our governor is in the hot seat on a national platform. Many folks are calling him out. Of course, Trump calling him out for this crazy way that he's dealt with the insurance market here in the state of Florida. But the name of this article I want you to check out is pretty interesting. Literally says, this is the title, Head Scratcher, Claims Litigation Not Named as Major Factor in Florida Insolvencies.
What?
I know. I was just as shocked as you. To make it say that the quote-unquote this fake crisis, why our premiums shot up so much is because of the instability or the unstable market, contractors and lawyers filing frivolous lawsuits against the insurance companies that have made them pay out so much money that they can't afford to stay in business in Florida. So
that's not a reason?
interestingly enough, it did not make not only the USA article that you brought up weeks ago, it didn't make this article that just came out yesterday in the Insurance Journal. This is interesting. It says the Florida Department of Financial Services and Rehabilitation and Liquidation. Let me take a step back. So the law just changed recently, said that if there's insolvencies in the state of Florida, the OIR, Office of Insurance Regulation, via DFS, Department of Financial Services, has to do an autopsy, basically, and the findings have to be public within 6 months. So these are now coming up, right, from these recent insolvencies.
So this is the state of Florida went in and looked at the books and whatever else they had to look at.
Right.
But this isn't like some weird internet claim. This is actually something that the state of Florida did.
That is correct.
Wow. Okay.
Well, at least 10 insurers have become insolvent since 2021, these are the 9 reasons: inadequate capitalization or asset deterioration. Well, I'm going to pause there.
We've talked about that a ton of times.
Many times about the low standard that Florida has to be an insurance company in a state surrounded by water. In heavy wind events, hurricanes, things like that. So you only have to have 15 million in assets. I believe it's 10 million in assets, 5 million in cash will get you an insurance company in the state of Florida. Many amendments that our friends have filed to make it harder, make it more like $30 million a minimum to throw down here in the state of Florida to not have to end up with an inadequate capitalization or asset deterioration, which is reason number 1.
Well, I mean, we've talked a bunch of times about the capitalization because, life's about timing, right? It's usually what we talk about. Timing. Bad timing is bad timing, and people go to business all the time because of bad timing. So if you have someone like a Frontline who goes into business around 2010, has no major storm until 2017, they collect premiums for 6 years with almost no losses, you know what? They're going to be fine.
Yep.
But you have someone like an Avatar who came on right around Hurricane Irma, if I recall correctly, and all of a sudden they got big claims. They don't have big money.
Right.
I mean, it's just it's like no different than opening up a restaurant and COVID hits. I mean, some things don't make it.
Well, and further down the list is just, business practices. Avatar with 30,000 policies only, they scrapped every single claim. Like they were little scrappers. They fought everything, which created them a lot of money and a lot of sanctions, and a lot of things like that. Got them in a lot of trouble from bad business practices, bad litigation, and just bad faith all around. So if they would have been a better player, they may have survived. But further on the list, improper management, another thing. Again, I mean, look at, going back to Avatar, very improper management. Literally, people on the board for Avatar were also, major partners in the defense law firm. I mean, it's just bad. I love the guy, by the way. The guys are great, by the way, great drinking people. But just bad business practice. So insufficient claim reserves, rapid premium growth, inappropriate transactions with affiliates or subsidiaries. We've talked about that before too, which came out 10 years ago in an article about Sunshine State University or whatever, or insurance that went out. The autopsy came out, showed that they were overpaying their subsidiaries that they owned. Like, say they made their own HR company and they would overpay them. They made their own, in some instances I've heard the same owner of the insurance company starting a tarping company and overpaying them $25,000, $30,000 a claim so they can overstate understate what they have in their main general operations account, fatten up their other entities so they can raise their premiums, show, hey, my general account is low, I need to raise premiums so I can fill that bucket back up. Meanwhile, they're overpaying subsidiaries. And this is not, we're just not making this up. This is real stuff that was found. And then the executives got bonused on the way out, $200,000 to $600,000 each.
True.
On the way out. And that was just one insurance company. Going back to it, natural disasters or catastrophic losses, change in business conditions, like you mentioned, and reinsurance market issues. And that's what we saw. There are many reinsurance companies in the state of Florida. I believe there's like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And so, they had to put me on the spot last year, and when they were coming up with these stupid reforms and major changes, and they gave $2 billion to like a reinsurance assistance program
that nobody took.
Right, that nobody took. And they asked me, they said, Mr. Kidwell, what do you think we should do with that? I said, we should take that $2 billion, give it to Citizens, and have them start to compete in the reinsurance market. So then that'll make the other lenders bring it down to compete with Citizens, thereby adding more competition. I didn't know that there were only a couple of reinsurance providers in the state of Florida. That's crazy. Yeah, they need more competition. They need to open the door for that in the state of Florida. That's what we need to do. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell.